Well, I've been doing some track work, y'all. Started a new layout on a piece of half-inch plywood. Got it down at Lowe's. Had them cut a foot off the end and 11 inches off the side, so it's 7 foot by 37 inches wide. And I got the pre-primed, so it took some spray paint really well. Painted it all green and then started building the track layout. I got the track pieces all done. What I've been using is some AFX track with TYCO apron borders, whatever you want to call them, from the U-turn sets. I really like that extra width that it gives you. And I got it laid out in a flat track. I don't have any elevations. I did cut some custom curves into it because it only comes in this 9-inch radius quarter circle. And I had some 1/8 circle tracks where I cut it and then bent it or turned it the other way and have to glue it up so it doesn't snap directly into AFX track. And the reason I went with AFX is because I have so much more AFX track and Auto World, which is basically the same. It marries up. There are two Auto World 1/8 inch pieces in here. And then the rest of this track came from two different AFX sets that I bought years and years ago just for the cars. A Super G Plus Challenge and a Speed Hook set. And it happened to have most of the track that I needed to do this, with the exception of the power terminal, because I went with a dual. I like to have separate power for each lane. That way if somebody comes off the lane, it doesn't ramp up on the other one. But anyway, what you got to do is glue it at the same level, because the track's dimension vertically is different, right? I think the obviously the TYCO's a little bit taller and it had little clip areas where these things would clip in. But what I did, I just used some Gorilla super glue this time. And if you're gluing dissimilar plastics, you might want to try the cotton ball method. It works really well. What you do, just put a little bit in there, shove some cotton down there, and then get back on top of it with that CA. And that stuff hardens up super quick. So make sure it's where you want it. And then, let it cure. It cures a lot faster, and it's kind of like fiberglass when it's done. But then I used Lifelike railings. Out of all the plastic railings made for track, I like Lifelike the best. It's the tallest and the widest. And when I say widest, I mean wide from here to here. The actual rail looks close to, real race railing, or whatever you want to call it, highway railing, except for the fact that it's white. And what I did, I just dremeled down into that border barrier where it'll snap on there, and then hot glued it in. So it's on there pretty good. And that comes out really nice. So that'll give me, a good track layout I can run U-turn cars if I want. It'd make a good F1 layout, or pretty much any race stuff that you want. And then while I was at it, and another reason I went with AFX is this AFX dual power. So it's got 4 spigots on here, one for each controller, and then one for each power pack. And you can change the direction too by flipping it over. So it gives you maximum flexibility. And those slide-in type connectors that Tony came out with are the best ones for HO track. I think the TYCO ones stick way up in the air, and so do the earlier Aurora ones. And Lifelike are basically a copy of the TYCO jacks, or they're permanently attached. But this gives you the chance. You can change out the track power however you like, add things in, gives you maximum flexibility. And then I added some reed switches on the bottom side. You can see them here. Now, a reed switch is just this little metal wafer switch that is got a real tiny separation in it, and it's in a glass tube with two metal ends, and then I hot glued them in. That's why I went with glass reed switches. But what it'll do when you pass your car over it, I got it hooked up to a meter here on continuity, the magnetism sets it off. So the magnetism draws the wafer together so you can register a lap. And then just to make sure, I passed the car on the other lane to make sure that that magnetism don't get over. Because under here, they're side by side on the lower rail. I put them on the lower rail because typically you'll run counterclockwise. So to put them on the lower rail, that's where the magnet in a Auto World extraction chassis is. And I've tested it with TYCO, old AFX, even non-magnet traction chassis sets it off just from the motor magnets. So they're very sensitive. I mean, you can have a pretty good altitude and get it, you know, not right there. I can set it off. I'm not even on the track. So they're quite sensitive. How long they'll last, I don't know. I've never used them on slot car track. I've used them on train tracks and layouts before, so they detect things, turn lights on, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to hook one up to an Arduino and try the race coordinator out, see how that works. It's kind of like that Viasu counter, except you build it yourself. You get them Arduinos pretty cheap. The software's free, or you can do a PayPal donation to the guy. He does real good work on that one. But now I'm at the point where I got all my track pieces glued up. I'm gonna start screwing it down, and when I glued it all together, I put a little bit of hot glue in the little socket where AFX has holes in the top of the track where you can put a track nail or a screw. I'm going to use a number 4 1/2 inch. Screw them down in there until they're just making contact, then heat them up with a soldering iron, put it in there. It should marry up and countersink and reheat that hot glue. And not that I need the hot glue for attachment, but it may take some of the vibration out when the cars pass over it. And I might, in the areas where it's higher, put some hot glue in there depending on how it sounds after my test runs. But that's where I'm at now. I need to hook it all up and do a couple test runs before I screw the track down. But it's coming out pretty good. I like the layout. We got a couple internal turns down there, and then so it should be pretty good when it's all done. We'll see how it goes. Just one solid fixed layout.